Good morning. This is the Hoover Sci-Fi Fantasy Festival panel on Star Trek Lower Decks. This is a Paramount Plus program. Today, your moderator is Commodore Mark Adam Miller, who's president of the local Star Trek club, the USS Hephaestus. With us is the Hephaestus Q, Stan Daniel, and the first officer, Philip Mangina. Gentlemen, why don't you introduce yourselves and give a little bit of reason why you joined this panel other than that I invited you. Stan, why don't you go first?
I'm Stan Daniel with Kingdom Casts podcast. That's Kingdom, C-A-S-T-S podcast. We cover comic books and all things nerds and weird out there things. And aside from Mark Adam inviting me, I think I'm on this panel because Mark Adam's a masochist.
That may be. So, Philip?
Yeah, I joined. Philip, I'm his first officer, but I enjoyed to do this panel. Other than you invited me.
Yeah. All right. Well, Lower Decks, if you have not seen it, is an animated series that they created. And one of the creators, if I'm not mistaken, was from Rick and Morty, wasn't it?
Yeah, one of the Rick and Morty showrunners.
So if you're a fan of Rick and Morty, you might enjoy Lower Decks, especially if you're a Star Trek fan.
I don't know. Have you watched a lot of Rick and Morty, Mark Adam?
I've watched a few episodes. Philip gave me the first season, was able to get through, I think, about 6 or 7. It was a little too much potty humor for my taste.
Yeah, I think this is more of a case of one of the showrunners being offered an opportunity to work on a intellectual property that he had, that he was connected to, that he was emotional for. This exhibits quick bullet humor in a similar fashion as Rick and Morty, but the tone is completely different on both of them.
Yeah. The people who have been putting this together to me are Star Trek fans. A quick look, you would think they were making fun, but if you really look at all the episodes together, you can see that this is their, in a sense, I think, a love letter of Star Trek and all the stuff that goes on because of the stuff that comes through. I think especially the episode with the Packlids. We always think that the Packlids only showed up in one episode of TNG, and they bring them back in this one as a slightly more powerful enemy that was surprising.
This is probably all what happens on the Lower Decks anyway.
Yeah. This is, I think, partly based on an episode of TNG called Lower Decks, where they actually were dealing with some of the lower ranks instead of the bridge crew, both in TOS and TNG, and somewhat of Deep Space Nine and Voyager. You're mainly seeing just the bridge crew people, the higher echelons. This is actually showing what the people do on a day-to-day basis to run the ship, cleaning out conduits, replacing spark plugs and circuit boards throughout the ship to keep the ship running from day to day and making sure that nothing is blowing. Everyone is mainly an ensign or below, or lieutenant. No, they're all ensigns. Excuse me. I'm looking at the thing right now. They're all. One of them does get promoted later. Spoiler. Sorry about that, folks. I just spoiled something. Didn't mean to do that. But it's 10 episodes long.
Expect spoilers. If they haven't seen season 1 by now, that's on them. Season 2 is about to start.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
yeah.
expect spoilers. We're
Yeah.
not going to sugarcoat it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there may be a couple spoilers in here, but I think there's some things. The reason partly doing this because I'm a Star Trek fan. The other reason is because I enjoyed this program. This is. I'm trying to think. This is the MASH episode to China Beach. If you guys remember the episode, the program China Beach, and how comical MASH was, this is sort of what that would be to start. Lower Decks is the Star Trek, like MASH is the China Beach.
Nobody remembers China Beach.
Am I dating myself again?
Yeah. Look, you're looking at what Lower Decks has going for it is that Tony Newsom has Beckett Mariner. She's a Star Trek fan, and she's trapped in the Star Trek universe. Now, her mother's a captain. She was raised in this reality. She breaks the fourth wall enough that we know she's a Trek fan trapped in the Trek universe. And she just fangirls out whenever somebody shows up or there's a situation that she's seen previously in the Next Generation, the original series, or DS9 or somewhere else. Yeah. And you've got a whole character arc about her growing and dealing with her parents' expectations of her, because both of her parents are high-level Starfleet officers. Yeah. And she works really, really hard to stay on the lower decks and to mess around. So, yeah, it's a love letter to Trek fans in as much that it's about a Trek fan inside the Star Trek universe.
Yeah, I now that you mention that, it makes sense. I didn't pick up on that. I like the character of that Tawny Newsom plays, which is Ensign Beckett Mariner. And so, which of course, part of the thing is like, okay, can you take the job seriously? And she's like, we're out here exploring. There's going to be strange things. There's a possibility we're not going to get out of this alive because we are on the frontier. So I'm just going to have fun doing what I want to do because I'm out here in space. But with your take, that's another take. It's like, yeah, Star Trek fan that's stuck in the universe and like, what am I going to do next?
Yeah, now that's not part of the script or part of the Bible, but that's exactly what she is. That was the elevator pitch for this. Is look, imagine a diehard, attractive, funny female Star Trek fan with stuck living in the Star Trek universe. She can break the fourth wall, but she's got her own Star Trek reality to deal with. So, that's what sold the Lower Decks. That's what got that across. They've been tooling around with something like this for God knows how long.
Yeah. And
could never find a way to make it work. This works, but it's not, I don't know that it's for all Star Trek fans, because her and the crew on here, they do get pretty rough with a lot of the Star Trek continuity and stuff.
Right.
I can see where certain Star Trek fans aren't going to like it. I love it. I think it's the best offering Paramount Plus has made toward the Star Trek fans. Picard and Discovery included in that. Discovery had me until the third season when they started killing off characters to leave one at the end to take over the whole show and completely ignore the ensemble cast they had going for them.
Yeah.
But this is high level entertainment. It's funny. It's stuff. It delves into areas that Star Trek has never delved into. And in doing so, it takes the Star Trek fans into areas that they may not necessarily want to go, but if they do, it's a fun ride.
Yeah. And it's interesting about some of the stuff. The one thing that I always think, there is an episode where Tawny Newsom is collecting stuff left and right, batleths and you name it, and storing them all over the ship. And there's one place where stuff fall out of the place where she stored them. And if you look close, there is a Spock helmet, which back in the 60s, oh, excuse me.
One with the little light on top of it.
Yeah, from, was it glue? No, it wasn't glue.
Oh,
Got the,
I'm sorry. I don't know why all of a sudden my nose.
it had the little helmet with the light on it. Then it had the some little doodad you carry around or walkie or something like that with it.
Yeah. And it was never shown on TV. I think they were thinking of a prop and they just went with it it never came to be on the show. But now it's part of Star Trek because it's now been in this show. So it's now it would be considered canon since it's been on the screen.
Well, now wait a minute. They play fast and loose with canon in this.
Yeah.
But you can't. I don't think you can take everything that goes on in Lower Decks as, say, even though I dislike it, Picard or even Discovery. Yeah, there's some wild for the Q situation, for instance.
Yeah.
That doesn't jive. When Q shows up and they're all tired and everything. Not now, Q. Yeah, no, that's not how that goes down.
Yeah, especially Q would not back down. It's like, oh, you think you can't handle it now? You wait.
Yeah, you have to pick and choose. For instance, we know Riker is the captain of the starship that showed up in the Packet episode, the season finale.
Titan.
Yeah, we can take the Packets for given. Or what are they?
Packlets.
Packlets. Yeah, we can take the Packlets for given. That's a good ad. We can take.
I think they added to the pack because it seems like the Packlets are a scavenger race. They don't seem intelligent, but they're intelligent enough to get people to, in a sense, like they say, make us go faster. And so people sort of help them out, not thinking they're mentally challenged, and they're not. I think it is a facade, and they play off well. They know what they're doing.
They're passive aggressive. Yeah,
they're being passive aggressive, and that Lower Deck showed that to the point that they now have this great big powerful thing, and they're trying to get back at the Enterprise for what Geordi did to them. I'm surprised they don't have wanted posters throughout the ship of Geordi LaForge.
But they may not have a printer.
That may be. They had a printer, they probably would have had wanted posters up all over.
Well, look, I got to tell you, my favorite concept, the one they introduced that I thought was just absolutely stellar, was when Devana created a dog.
Oh yeah.
That's pure Star Trek right there to me. I mean, everybody, for the most part, everybody ignored it. But, the dog turns into a cube and rolls along the ground. The dog turns into this. The dog talks. Don't all dogs talk? That was perfect. And it was done, in the hands of a next-gen writer or a DS9 writer or even a Voyager writer. This would have been a far more serious episode in tonality and delivery of this. But instead, we got something funny, something cute, and something just very distinctively Trek.
Right.
Yeah. So this
good at, and the thing is, and it shows you, it's like Star Trek is supposed to be all these different cultures together. And what would another I can't think what race Devani is, but she's some green. I don't know if she is Orion or not because she's green. Not all.
Orion.
The database does have as an Orion. So, what would someone who's not from Earth think what a dog is? Because people, she probably thought dogs talk because she always heard humans talking to their dogs. So the dogs must talk too if humans are talking to them. So,
look at all the videos we have where we make the dogs talk.
Well, that's true too.
I mean, as far back as broadcast, we've made animals talk.
True.
So, you know, that, yeah, you can easily glom onto that. You know,
Yeah.
she doesn't know the parameters of a dog. She
Yeah.
creates this entire, it's just, that's the opportunity here. That's the opportunity, is to take things that Star Trek would have to deal with seriously if it was anywhere else, and add a touch of humor to it, a little bit more of humanity to it, to bring it across, and not necessarily have it set in the confines of the storyboard you have to use for a 1 hour Trek episode.
Right. Right.
You can break. It's okay that Beckett Mariner breaks the fourth wall. We know she's invested in her reality.
Yeah.
We know she's a Starfleet. She's a Starfleet ensign. It's okay to go outside the lines every now and again and not have it all be canon. Hasn't there been a couple of times that Beckett looked at the screen and said something like, that's canon now. You know,
Yeah.
that's obviously, no, that's not canon.
Yeah.
But this is, Star Trek needs to explore, by its very nature, the nature of the story that was set up in the 60s and forward. And it's true for the TV series as well as it is for the characters inside the fictional universe. Lower Decks is an exploration of story.
Yeah.
And I think the showrunners at Star Trek, rather than retreading what we've done before, or working on a mandate, they should explore in the different ways they can tell these stories. They're not confined to the 1 hour format of TNG anymore.
Right.
Yeah, you've got an entire streaming universe, and God knows Paramount could use a golden goose.
And plus, what they learned on the original animated back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Learned from what they did in the 70s. Probably improved upon it now. Storyline and probably better voice act. You got a better hand in getting people in here voice acting.
What did DC Fontana do as she learned about the animated series? Did she say, okay, we're going back to the format of the Trek stories? Well, yeah, they did to some degree, but the first thing she did was slap a Catwoman and a multi-armed alien on there that there was no way live action was going to be able to handle. Mm-hmm. Some of the concepts they handled on the Filmation series, no way you could film for that. They explored to varying degrees of success on the Filmation series. Yeah. But
plus, especially if you're creating new characters, especially with more arms or gaseous or whatever, you can do better in animation than you could in real live TV.
Right. Yeah, animation, the biggest battle scene ever in space for Starfleet against whomever, Klingons, whoever you want, and all that, that's not going to cost any more in animation than a regular Star Trek, a regular episode of Lower Decks does. Not anything more. Whereas if you're putting it in live action, oh dear God. Now, having said that, y'all are aware of the problems with the licensing on the ship designs and everything else for Paramount Plus. Yeah. They have to pay to use any of the classic. That's some of the most messed up stuff ever. Right. Somebody that swings a lot of weight at Paramount, CBS, Viacom needs to step in and call everything home to Trek, so everybody has access to everything in the library. Right.
Well, that's true, because that may happen when they finally get Strange New Worlds off the ground, because they're going to have to go back to some of the classic Trek because they're using the original.
Even with this, you still got Star Trek Prodigy going to Nickelodeon now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to have to find a way to include that.
Well, that's okay. Nickelodeon's under the Paramount banner. That's all right. What I'm talking about is there's executive directors, or there's executives that owns the rights to the licensings of some of the ship designs, and that the people that are licensing the new stuff don't have immediate access. They can't pull a Galaxy class in whenever. That's why all of the starships look the same inside Lower Decks.
Yeah, and also in Picard.
Picard, yeah.
Yeah, because they could only do the one ship, which Riker had, and of course every single one of those was the same ship. It was not like if you go to Deep Space Nine and they did the Dominion War, all the different ships that were coming in to fight the Dominion.
Yeah.
In
what he did for cost saving on the bridge of the of Riker's ship was the bridge of the Discovery.
Titan. Or was it
Discovery? It was a Discovery bridge.
Yeah,
and,
repressed.
And Riker's ship is the Titan, right?
In this episode, in Lower Decks, it is. In Picard, it's not the Titan.
Well, you're dealing with two different time periods. So at the time of Lower Decks, it's the Titan that shows up. And they had to pay for licensing on the Titan. Even though the Titan had only appeared in what? Books? Novels?
Yeah, the Titan's only in novels.
And a couple of games?
It's mentioned in Star Trek Nemesis because Riker gets the captaincy of the Titan after the wedding of him and Diana.
Yeah.
Deanna. I don't know why
Diana.
Diana. My hearing impairment. Now, of these people, Jerry O'Connell is the only actor that I recognize.
Jack Quaid, son of
Don
Dennis
Lewis.
Well, Jack Quaid's the son of Dennis Quaid, but I don't know him that well. Jerry O'Connell I know is from Sliders and those and a couple of those type of things.
Jack Quaid is on The Boys on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the star of The Boys. Have you been watching that, Philip?
Yeah.
That's an interesting program.
Paul Scheer is also on there. He's a very well-known, easy, quick go-to comedian for comedies. He plays Andy Billups, Commander Andy Billups. And Jack McBrayer is Badgie.
Okay.
So that's the handful of known names. Yeah, but don't overlook Dawn Lewis. Dawn Lewis has had a long and varied acting career. She plays the captain, Beckett Mariner's mother.
Right.
Captain Freeman.
Yeah. Up there, yeah. Dawn Lewis, yeah. The voiceovers are really good. I really enjoyed some of the. They're doing a real good job of playing these characters. Of course, I think my favorite character is Lieutenant Shax, the security officer, and because he's playing a Bajoran and doing well. I don't know who Fred Tata. Wow.
Mostly voice acting.
Yeah. So, yeah. And of course, the doctor, Dr. Tana. It's interesting. They make she's an older cat. We all know how Maris from animated series.
You know, they had to bring in Dr. McCoy-esque into this series.
Yeah, she is a like a Dr. McCoy, grouchy old doctor.
It's not just that. It's also tongue in cheek. Look, when we had the Catwoman in the Filmation series, she's sexy, she's gorgeous, she purred, and instead, and now we've got this. It looks flea-ridden, banged up cat that coughs up hairballs. I mean, that's the juxtaposition there is funny. That's clever. That's cute.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, okay, we're used to the well-groomed cat, and here's this cat that, this is an alley cat. Is the doctor. It's just a blatant alley cat that's just no nonsense and just has been around the block more than once. And I just enjoy her, the way she does things, and they've got a good character there. Of course, the first officer is almost a knockoff of William Riker, being macho and everything, and gung ho and.
He's kind of a composite of the Kirk and Riker qualities.
Yeah,
a little bit of.
But he's also he's trying to. It's one, and of course, I can't refer to that because that we talked about William Riker at one of our meetings, and he he seems to be self-assured. He's like, you really think, but he's acting, just putting on an act. He really is unsure of himself. And if you really would check him, he's like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just trying to act, and he's figuring as long as he acts that way, he fake it until you make it. He's a fake it until you make it type of person.
And it's not that he doesn't know what he's doing. He prefers the umbrella that Picard provides.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. He couldn't have gained the position of number one on a Galaxy class starship if he was incompetent or really didn't understand what he was doing. But his ambitions for several years only went so far and no farther. And he liked that Picard acted as sort of a shield for him. And he got to play as though he was the shield for Picard.
Yeah, but he moved up through the ranks pretty fast. And I still think the Riker character, and of course this character of Commander Jack Ransom, they're both characters are they can do it. They're just not. They themselves are unsure of how well they can perform their duties. They're still trying to figure out, okay, why did I get here, and how did I get here so quick? And so they're still have an unsureness of themselves, and they're still. And I think that was really sometimes Riker. He had been promoted so quickly because he'd been in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing.
Yeah,
and that's because they had been they didn't understand how they had learned their trade. It's more of a muscle reflection than a thought reflection.
Riker's trial by fire was the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
and he not only had to contend with the Borg situation in Locutus, and just this ominous betrayal, forced betrayal from Picard to Locutus, but also he had to deal with Lieutenant Commander Shelby, who had all the ambition that he did not.
Right.
And was probably, I'm going to go ahead and say it, she was just as competent. She just had what he was missing. And also she was missing a bit more experience than he did.
And I think you saw the growth there. I think you see Riker coming into his own when he realizes that, okay, I do know what I'm doing. And I like you say, best of both worlds was. But before that, he is like, I'm doing this, but I'm swaggering because that's what people expect of me.
Yeah. I don't think you can.
And Lieutenant Shelby came up, and it really showed, in a sense, caused him to look in the mirror and said, "Yeah, I'm here because I earned this, and I know what I'm doing." And she can back off because I know what I'm doing, and so
they'll come in and gave him a little kick in the
gave him the backbone that he was, I think, missing beforehand.
I think you're asking a little too much of Commander Jack Ransom. He's there as a love interest for Beckett. I don't look to see many of the upper deck characters to evolve and learn lessons and so on and so forth. They have to remain static,
right?
For the ensigns to do what they do.
Yeah,
to a degree. I mean, there's varying degrees on this. We saw some growth with Dawn Wells, Captain Freeman, toward her daughter, and the relationship there. That's fine. That's written in there. But Jack Ransom is what Jack Ransom's supposed to be. He's what you said. He's a carbon copy of the Kirk and Riker qualities.
Right.
Maybe he feels incompetent. Maybe he's got the same hangups that Riker does. But in the long run, we're more concerned, so far as lower decks goes, we're more concerned with Beckett and Brad. Right. And Devana and the rest of them. That's where our concern lies. I don't think we're going to. I mean, hell, they killed Shax in the first season.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was to show you. Look, there's some characters on here that are disposable, and we can swap characters in and out on this. So far as the commanding officers go.
Do you think they might have a brother of Shax come to be the new?
If it occurs to one of the writers down the road, as a wink, wink, nod, nod thing, and they've got an episode around it, yeah, they could do something like that. they could even walk in a twin and say, oh, you're the twin, and we never hear about it again.
Yeah, right.
You know, they could do the same thing they did on the Orville with the security officer. Yeah, here's somebody that looks almost exactly like you and has a slightly different personality.
Right.
You know, so bon voyage.
Right.
You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So,
well, between the two, between the Orville and between Lower Decks, and at this point, I think we can still assume that Orville is as much parody of Star Trek as it is its own little thing. Which do the two of you prefer?
Oh, that's rough. That's a rough question. Good question. Because both of them are parodying Star Trek. We know that from the thing.
You can always say the Orville's the alternate universe of Trek. One of the alternate universes.
Alternate universe. Because see, in a sense, you got three parodies. You got Galaxy Quest, you got Lower Decks, and you got the Orville. They're all three parodies of Star Trek. Of course, Galaxy Quest actually gives you a parody of not only the show but of the character of the actors who played them.
Galaxy Quest, yeah, but it's even more so. Galaxy Quest is a parody of the real life entity that is Star Trek.
Right. Right.
Yeah. In other words, in our reality, in this reality, they covered all the bases with it, from the fans to the actors to the actual Star Trek story aspect.
Correct.
Yeah. That's something that neither Lower Decks nor Orville will ever be able to aspire to. That's a once in a lifetime situation.
But Lower Decks, like you say, Lower Decks gets close with the fourth wall breaking by Beckett.
She'll never come fully out.
No.
Say you're watching a TV series.
No, she won't.
Galaxy Quest came fully out and said
you're watching
it's a TV series. I mean, that was the punchline to Galaxy Quest. Yeah, and the most heartening moment when they had to tell the aliens it's a lie. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
And so you'll never see that in Lower Decks. She will always be Beckett Mariner.
Right.
She's not going to stop and say, hey, I'm actually actress Tammy Newsom. Yeah, and that's something Galaxy Quest had the luxury of. So keep it between Orville and this. Which do both of you think is the better or more faithful parody?
I think in this case it would be the Orville, because they are there's not the breaking of the fourth wall that Beckett does. With Beckett, there's that breaking of the fourth wall, which sort of pulls you out of the episode and says, okay, you're watching the TV. Where Galaxy or Orville stays in character at all times. They're not hitting the fourth wall. You could say they sort of came close to hitting the fourth wall when they did the holodeck and the robot shows up in this human form, and it's the actual actor in the. Why can't I think of that robot's name?
Asimov.
No, that's you're Buck Rogers. Asimov was the commander of Buck Rogers. It's not Asimov. Oh shoot! I had to look up Quark or Orville. I don't think it's Asimov.
So I have to take
the
Lower
money
Decks.
on it.
Orville.
Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac. Yeah, that's this. So.
If you had a last name, it'd be Asimov.
You think? They may have named him after Isaac Asimov.
They did name him after Isaac Asimov.
So, okay. But, all right, back to Lower Decks. Let's see. We've got 2 minutes.
Now, wait a minute. Philip didn't answer. Philip, which of the two do you?
Oh, yeah.
I was saying the Orville, not the Orville, but the Lower Decks, because you'll always have those nods to the other series being thrown in the middle of it, just for a little comedic aspect of it.
Well, now Orville does the same thing, but here's the good news is we don't have to choose between the two. You know, you've got both of them. Orville's back for a third season on Hulu.
Is
and
it
it's not
already
a Disney property?
Is it finally back?
It's on its way back. Yeah, they've been filming and getting the episodes together.
Last thing I read, they had to shut down again because of COVID. To lights or background people, support people ended up with COVID, so they had to shut down again.
Hulu's advertising them, so they're we're it's incoming. The thing is Orville is the more loving of the two. Even though Orville is not under the Trek brand, there is a hardness to Lower Decks that is delivered, that Orville delivers in a loving way. It's a loving homage to Star Trek. Seth MacFarlane pitched this as a Star Trek series, and Paramount said, no, that's ridiculous. We'll go with this cartoon. Yeah. And they lost out. They know they lost out. Yeah, as a Star Trek series, this would have been pretty kick butt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's set in the right time period. He's got the star power that he can get anybody. Dear God, he and Patrick Stewart, I'm halfway convinced they're living together. So I feel as though Orville is the more loving and the more gentle of the two. If I want the cunning and if I want the cutting and in-universe assessment of things, it's going to be Lower Deck. I laugh harder at Lower Deck than I do Orville, but Orville's got actual significant character development and relationships on it. In a lot of ways, they're simply mimicking older Star Trek episodes and putting a more modern spin on them.
Right. That's true. And I think that segues into my next question. What is Lower Decks missing? What are we not liking? What are we not seeing that we should see? They need to really. What would you think that would make the animated series better?
Philip?
I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more character development, and across the board, maybe a little bit more Mariner and her mother.
Which do you like better, Philip? Cheers or MASH, so far as comedy goes?
I'll say Cheers. MASH is a little bit. Cheers is a little, or MASH is a little bit more before my time versus Cheers is more my time now.
Too much character development in a 30-minute sitcom turns Cheers into MASH. Yeah. And a lot of people, they put MASH up there with, all-time play, and it's not. It's a sitcom that went completely off the rails and learned that they could get accolades if we do, more serious, hardcore war stories and so on and so forth. You got to be real careful with that character development line on some of these. If any of the characters on Lower Deck become too serious, then this cartoon's not going to work simply by the way it's designed.
Right.
I mean, their very essence, the very way they're drawn. If Rick and Morty, you referenced that earlier, they have a serious undertone to them in some episodes that hints that Rick's not just a narcissist, he's a narcissist that's on the verge of killing himself constantly. Well, that's okay, because the way they play it is they'll play it on the end credits, or they'll play it as the last scene you see at the end of the season. But the rest time, Rick is just a raging, insane, alcoholic narcissist.
Yeah.
And that's funny. And then you get that one tone. But if they start doing that every episode, well, you don't have Rick Sanchez anymore. You have this very sympathetic, pitiable character. And you can't pity Rick. You can't pity Beckett. You can pity Brad. He's there to be pitied because that's funny. Pitying Brad is funny, because he's not going to get anywhere. He's never going to achieve the way he wants to achieve or thinks he should, while Beckett is there helping him.
Yeah. And I, like you said earlier, I think part of the problem is they need to work on trying to get more of the licensing for a lot of the other ships so that they can be a little more broader based on what showing a Galaxy class ship, and other than just because mostly what they're showing is California class ships in this episode, and it's like, okay, there's more than just the California class. And I think that's one of the things that they're going to have to work on. I'm not sure. Like you say, it mainly focuses on the insert. We're not going to, like Philip says, we may want a little bit of them to flesh out the command crew a little bit, but I don't think it will work if they do. The command, like you said, it has to stay static because it's the lower decks against the upper deck in the whole thing. How the upper deck doesn't really understand that they can't do the stuff without the lower deck, and lower deck is just trudging away at what they're doing.
If Commander Jack Ransom dies this season, it has the potential for comedy. If we fully flesh out Jack Ransom's character and know his insecurities and know that he likes to play the trombone and yada, 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 and it's not, the death, it's a token death.
Yeah.
And you got to stay true to what the core of this is. The core of this is a parody and a comedy based inside of the Trek universe with one very self-aware character and other characters playing out their roles to a T as ensign, captain, number one, so on and so forth.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And this is mainly a Trouble with Tribbles episode, a Piece of the Action episode. I can't think of the episode where Picard becomes the detective. I can't think what episode that is.
Well, wait a minute. Wasn't his name Dix?
Yeah.
D-I-X or yeah.
Yeah. Dixon Hill.
Yeah.
Dixon Hill.
There we go. Dixon Hill.
Dixon.
I knew that was in there somewhere.
Yeah. And they're not watch. So this is just doing the comedy, which Star Trek has its good comedies to lighten the mood. And this is just to have some fun with being in the universe and not taking the universe really as being in the Star Trek club. There are some people who really will take Star Trek serious to the nth degree.
Oh yeah, there's some humorless Starfleet fans. There's some humorless fans in every genre.
So,
yeah,
we've got it. Yeah, Star Trek has a thing where it's trying to make us think about how can we make our world better, but it is still a piece of entertainment.
Now, right now, the problem with Star Trek is there's no one individual that's answerable. There's several individuals that'll tell you that the buck stops here with Star Trek, but that's not so. The situation with Star Trek right now is Paramount trying to find the perfect way to milk as much as they can out of it.
Right.
And that's problematic. Star Trek needs an overall showrunner, a Feige, as in, Kevin Feige from the Marvel universe, or a Kathleen Kennedy in the Lucasfilm universe. And
John Favreau.
Huh?
It needs a John Favreau.
No. You see, you don't want to get into the Kathleen Kennedy thing with me because she flew into a pre-designated disaster area personally to bring relief efforts to individuals there and to save her employees. Now, until Favreau or any of these other creators do something like that, they need to just take a back seat. Kennedy's the one that put Favreau in position.
Well, yeah, but John Favreau had a good concept with the Mandalorian. And
Kathleen Kennedy has wonderful concepts by putting these individuals in the positions where they can create. Y'all, I'm not going to get into bashing women, the bashing women argument with you.
Yeah,
I'm
not into bashing Kathleen Kennedy.
Well,
I just don't know as much about. I just know what John Favreau did for Mandalorian.
And how did John Favreau do that?
Well,
do you think he just walked in off the street, said, "I'm taking Studio C over here. You need to import about $3 million."
Yeah. But
no, that's not.
I'll grant you that Kathleen Kennedy saw what John Favreau had and realized, hey, this guy could do something good.
Yes, the same way she's overseeing the new golden age of Star Wars right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
don't believe the stuff that you read in the hate groups and all this.
I know.
How long have they been trying to fire her?
I know. And she's still there.
I mean, that's it. I mean, the fans. Nobody at Disney is looking to fire her. You don't fire somebody that adds 3 more movies to the $1 billion category.
Yeah.
Yeah, you make sure you lock them down. So anyway, back to this, and we're coming.
Yeah, we need somebody, but I don't know who. But who is out there for that?
Well, that's it. You need to. There is somebody out there. The problem is that Paramount needs to think a little more like an artisan group in this respect, and less like a corporation. That's how Disney gets the edge up on everybody in entertainment. Yes, they're a megalomonolithic corporation, but they let their artisans free roam,
right? And
they know how to utilize that.
And that's why we've got a good Marvel group. We've got a good Star Wars group going.
So, that's where you are with that. Paramount needs to emulate that. They need to seek out a couple of individuals that have a singular vision for Star Trek, but more importantly, they need to round up all the licensing so they can utilize all of Star Trek.
Because I know during some of the short treks, I know one of the composers was trying to find he brought in a couple of new composers, and that's where he trying to get the new people in there to do some composing for for some of the short treks. Some of those were new composers, maybe outside the group, but hey, he was trying to bring them in for new composing. But it's just trying to find somebody like Jonathan Frakes coming in. Hey, I have a few directors out there that are young, maybe willing to come in here and start doing it. Hey, let's start bringing them in and see what they have.
Yeah.
And who we, to start directing, start taking the reins, because who we got is not, they're no spring chickens on who's directing some of the shows now.
Yeah.
All right.
Does a good job, but I love Jonathan Frakes, and he's done some really good stuff. But the problem is, I'm concerned about his age. How much can we get out of him?
You can't put Frakes over all of Star Trek. Frakes is a solid director, but that's it. He's not a visionary.
Yeah.
You need a visionary.
You just need somebody that, even if he has somebody that's 30, 40 years younger, that's got a good vision, that, hey, he can start shoving into, not shoving, but start slowly putting into the light and saying, this, he's got some visions for it. And maybe that other guy might have a few other people that, start bringing in fresh, young ideas in.
You got to find them somewhere. Yeah. There's somebody out there that cares about Star Trek enough that needs that opportunity.
Yeah.
That needs to move up. You look at Feige. Feige, 12 years ago, Feige walked Samuel L. Jackson in on a cameo as Nick Fury at the end credits scene of Iron Man. But in the back of Feige's mind, he knew that the end of that 10 years was going to lead to Thanos. If he had his way. If everything lined up. He was far away from it when, that first Iron Man rolled out. But he had an idea. He had a vision in the back of his head. And fortunately, a lot of people rolled with that. That's what Paramount needs on Star Trek. They need a single unifying vision.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just kind of.
They got a couple too many people having visions, and they're not getting them to gel well.
Yeah,
And
coalesce.
You're getting some weird stuff.
We're down to the last minute.
Yeah.
I think we need to tell everybody goodbye.
Yeah. So I thank everybody for coming. Thank you, Stan, for being here, and Philip, as always. I am the president of the local Star Trek group, the U.S. Hephaestus. We do have discussion panels like this twice a month, the second and fourth Thursday of the month. Check the U.S. Hephaestus page on Facebook to check us out. If you forget what the Hephaestus is, think of Vulcan, who is the god of the forge in Roman theology, in Roman gods, and go for the Greek god, which is Hephaestus. If you can't think of Hephaestus either, also think of Wonder Woman. Her sword and shield was created by Hephaestus. So those are two ways to remember the Hephaestus. Please check us out. We'd love to have you on the second and fourth Thursday of the month. I'd also thank the Hoover Sci-Fi Fantasy Festival for letting us come in and talk about our fandom and our love for Star Trek.
I'm Stan Daniel with Kingdom Casts. It's a podcast I do with Albert Marsh and Sandra Swindle. All things nerdy. Tune in. And who are you, Philip?
I'm the first officer of the Hephaestus, and remember, Lower Decks comes out August 12th.
There you go.
Second
That's the most important piece of information we just toss in at the last here.
Yes. Thank you, Philip. That's why he's my first officer. He keeps me on track. So turn this back to you, Justin, I guess.